How should we say?
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us for what most people would consider the most dry, but I think a very important aspect of how we move forward. So on this panel, we're going to talk about what we can do as industry working with lawmakers to try and establish a balanced regulatory framework. I think as we move, as already been mentioned, as we try and move towards a mature ecosystem, the idea of crypto staying as a complete wild west, I think it's probably got to go. The idea that the entire space ought to become heavily regulated like banking, I think is also extremely inappropriate. And so what we really do need to do is, to accomplish as a mission, is to figure out what's the appropriate level of guidance, of regulation working both industry and on a government level to bring the ecosystem to be a stable one. Right? So I think we have a very good spread of people here today. Just an introduction, my name is Tju-Liang, I'm the General Counsel of the Ethereum Foundation. On my left here, Chia, Hock, who is the President and Founder of the Singapore FinTech Association, I think also today listed as the Token Economy Association. Moving down, Adrian Ang, who's a partner in Hill, one of Singapore's foremost law firms. Adrian's the co-head of the firm's FinTech practice. Next to him, I think a face many of you will recognize, Anson Zeall, who's the chairman and founder of Access, which is the Singapore Cryptocurrency and Blockchain Industry Association. And last but not least, Urszula McCormack, who's a partner with King & Wood Mallesons, the global law firm. And Urszula specializes in financial services regulation, money laundering, all things that we need to be very careful of take good care of. Right? So I think we're running low on time. It's been an exciting day, so I'm going to just jump straight in the discussions. Let's start with the fact that it's a very wide space, right? I mean, there's a huge amount of variability in crypto projects with a huge amount of variability in the characteristics. There's also a vast amount of misunderstanding and FUD, right? So put that together with the fact that law is inherently a training instrument, lacks the advancement of technology. What can we do as industry to help the lawmakers during the drafting of bills and laws to ensure that the law isn't written for yesterday, ends up straitjacketing the technology of tomorrow?
I guess I'll start first. I think one of the biggest, I won't call it a mistake because it sounds very big. It's more like a learning lesson that for the whole ecosystem was that when the whole Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency ecosystem wanted to be regulated, the first thing we went to was the regulators and asking them, hey, how can we be regulated? I think this is actually not a good step because regulators themselves are also learning how to regulate the industry. I think what we should have done or now continue to do is to engage both sides. So they will talk to us, we will talk to them, we update them on the new findings, on what's happening, and then come up with regulation this way. As you can see, when we spoke to the regulators and understanding how FATCA works now, it was the initial few companies that were influential enough that went to FATCA and said, hey, can you find a way to regulate us? And that's how all the rules became very, some of them quite onerous, but now there is enough association, there's enough influence to influence that. So now it's just constant engagement that we need for both the associations, the ecosystem, and the regulators.
Thanks, Anson. And I'd like to add to that. I think you're absolutely right. The industry associations have a huge part to play. But I'll say this, right? I think a lot of it, especially with new technologies, is education. Right? It's educating the public, educating to some extent the regulators, and sharing with them different varied types of business models, a particular service or product entails, right? I think one of if you don't have an industry association that does it, the difficulty is that you have each company going to the regulator and talking about their own specific product. The regulator on their platform might find it difficult to get a big picture perspective of what exactly the product or service is going to be about and all the various permutations. Now, that's what the industry association can do. I think from the part of the regulators, certainly with from what I've seen, the Payment Services Act in Singapore and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, they've taken a very policy-based approach. So, to my mind, once you get all this information from the industry associations, how do you address it? How do you decide what to regulate and how do you change the law? There are two ways to go about it. One, you can do it incrementally. You look at existing legislation and you change the law. Or you can look at it holistically. And this is what MAS has done with payment systems. It's identified certain themes that things are important. Right? So for example, they said there are 4 policy considerations. Number 1, money laundering. Number 2, protection of float. Number 3, interoperability. Number 4, technology risk. And once it's identified these 4 policies, it starts thinking about the different kinds of products and services, what the risk level is for each of these policies, and then coming up with all-encompassing regulation to address the different risks that are applicable. So I think that's a pretty sensible way to go about doing things.
Just to add on to what Anson and Adrian have articulated, as the number of blockchain products and services expand, right, some of it start entrenching into traditional finance, and that's where the regulators have a lot of experience in regulating, and that's where the industry can learn from them. But also for the unregulated space, right, although, for example, like in Singapore, utility tokens are not regulated, but I feel that the industry can self-regulate to instill more transparency and accountability, because although it's not regulated, right, if the industry don't get their acts together, it will actually spoil the market, as we say in Singapore. So I think both the regulated and the regulated activities, industry and the regulators have a lot of room to work with one another and make the ecosystem healthier.
And so we've had this chat before, right? And I think the terminology is important here. It casts a slant on it. I don't think it's accurate to call our space unregulated because of the discussion. It may not be specifically regulated, but a ton of other laws relating to fraud and misrepresentation and just kind of just poor behavior in general is regulated by general law. So in many spaces, as Hock mentioned, right, the appropriate level of additional regulation may be none. So I think calling it unregulated seems to then cast a view generally that something has to be done. Right? Urszula, you've worked with a number of governments on kind of putting together regulations. What can you tell us about the experience?
I'd say that just as this space is wonderfully collegiate, policy and regulation also benefits from collegiality, and by that I mean that we understand each other's point of view. So when I go and ask a regulator to change their policy on insurance of custodied assets or their policy on what good custody looks like, I understand where they're coming from and I understand what the pressure points are for them. Because we're looking at this from the excitement of a really new industry. They're looking at it from a track record of years of collapse, financial failures, difficulties with people who are protesting on the streets because of the collapse of a complex product. So understanding points of view is absolutely step number one. And we've seen really great responses in the work that we're doing, say, from the FinTech Association's perspective in Hong Kong, when we approach it in that way, when we approach it with solutions, when we say that this is what good custody looks like, this is what we should be doing about insurance or about cybersecurity. So that's certainly something that I found as a success factor.
So similarly, in Singapore, we have the SPICE program, which is Standardized Practice in Crypto Entities, which is a platform to bridge the knowledge gap as well as the processes and controls between the blockchain ecosystem as well as the regulators as well as the banks. So for example, we work with Token Economy Association on the so-called module for the ICO side in terms of plugging it into the SPICE program, whereas Access now is focusing on the code of practice where we help bridge the processes and controls that may be missing on the crypto side, and so that the banks understand how it works so that eventually the crypto companies and blockchain companies can get banked. Because I'm pretty sure now, after doing all these different workshops, there are misunderstandings on both sides, and that's where the industry associations come in to help bridge the gap between the three sides.
And so that's very helpful with doing that. One of the things I wanted to talk about, as Hock you really alluded to, is that the more abuse there is, the more we're going to see clampdown, right? And so the wisest thing, of course, for the industry to do is to start as a first step, self-regulate. And so this description of the SPICE framework, I think is very helpful. You've cast it as primarily an education exercise. How do we bring that to the next step, becoming a form of self-regulation to weed out scammers and bad actors?
Okay, so I thought you were looking at Hock like that. Okay, so how do we basically rephrase it? How do we go towards a self-regulatory sort of model? Okay, so in my view, I have Access has quite a number of MOUs with different associations, and we understand how they work. I think one of the main challenges I've seen was that many associations were rushing to do their own code of conduct, code of practice, without the recognition from the regulators as well as the stakeholders. I think it's important that not only that you should, yes, have a code, but at the same time, you must have agreement. Because if your self-framework is not recognized by the stakeholders, then you're really just spending time writing for the past how many months, and then it will take you much longer to actually do the work to do the convincing. So in order to have the regulated framework, engagement first before actually doing the writing is very important.
I'd certainly agree with that. I think also it can serve as the pathway. So maybe not having recognition on day one, but forming the foundation for the next wave of regulation would be very powerful.
And maybe to add on what the Token Economy Association is trying to do. So we are coming out with the governance framework whereby projects first will have to pass the test that in the first place is the blockchain technology necessary for the project, right? And then there's this code and practices, right, that you will have to comply before your project gets whitelisted. And then of course there is both carrot and stick. If there is non-compliance, they could be sanctioned, they could be suspended, or to the worst, right, they could be terminated. So a good balance of carrot and stick is important for self-regulation to work.
For the private practice lawyers on the panel, law firms are of course a key component of, some would say, enabling a lot of these new business models. Do you think that that firms have a role to play in contributing to self-regulation?
Certainly, I'll give you an example. Like if you look at token offerings, I mean, the reality is there will be a wide variety of issues, different areas of law that are typically triggered in something like that. And I think if you're a layperson, it might not be so easy for you to actually identify all the areas that are triggered and to address that when it comes to these codes of conduct. So the lawyers certainly have a role to play in identifying the broad scope of what is to be addressed and how to come up with a code of conduct. The other thing is that the lawyers, at least from a legal perspective, would be a large repository of experience, right, in terms of the different kinds of products that you see. So where you come from a particular company, you might only see one version of that product, whereas lawyers will see probably multiple versions of it. So for lawyers to be involved in coming up with this code, I think it would be quite useful as well, simply because we would have hopefully a broader perspective. Urszula.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And I think a good lawyer is a strategic advisor as well. It's someone who looks ahead and says, where is the law going? Where will you need to be with your business in 5-10 years' time? What will the law look like? A good lawyer lawyer will be able to tell you directionally where it's going. And I do think that's really important for lawyers to engage in policy. I think it's incredibly important for that engagement. That it's not just about taking the clip and away you go. It is a much broader duty. So the excellent lawyers that I've seen in this space are involved in the fintech associations. They're partners. They're really curious about your technology. They ask questions and they seek to learn. So that's something that's been an immense privilege to be part of that space.
Anson, what other kind of professional service providers and so forth do you think need to be a key part of this exercise?
What other payment service providers?
Or which other stakeholders, I suppose, other than the industry themselves?
So maybe I need to do a simple comparison. So some of the countries recently, or not recently, for the past few years, has treated fintech as an asset class, whereas, for example, Singapore is going the way where fintech is horizontal across all industries. So in a way, for blockchain, because once you have something that relates to cryptos, you may be in the purview of the Payment Services Act. Okay? So right now, if we look at what the PSA, now not PSB, the Payment Services Act includes, many companies that are trying to do payments that are within a closed loop, meaning that you can't have the payments that are traded on a cryptocurrency exchange. Those ones have a different risk-based control compared to ones that have a token that is used for loyalty points but can also be traded on the exchanges. So it depends. I don't know any specific names off the top of my head, but it depends on your the use case, on the characteristic of your token. Is it going to be within a certain closed shell, or you're planning to have it used everywhere and by anyone? If it's on that basis, then basically you need to have some sort of controls and processes even within the PSA that's listed in there.
And I want to add to that in terms of the stakeholders. I think we talked about the professionals, the lawyers. We talked about the companies themselves, the fintech companies. Obviously, the banks are very important also, because the fintech companies will need to open bank accounts, and the banks will need to be satisfied that there are no AML CFT issues. The other thing is accountants are pretty important as well, and I think a leaf from SGX's book actually, because if you look at their regulators column, they've talked about what they would expect when someone does a token offering. One of the things they expect is for the issuing company to have actually engaged accountants and gotten proper financial advice. So for example, how do you classify these tokens that are issued? You look at them, from an accounting perspective. When do you recognize them as revenue? Things like that will be quite important. So we talked about different stakeholders, accountants, financial advisors, also very important, and the banks.
One thing I have to say, for this particular SPICE program that we're working with, I have to commend the lawyers, because lawyers have come up very quickly. Usually it doesn't happen that way. But now I would like all the accountants and auditors to come up even more quickly, because that's the next step of the SPICE program that we need your help with.
In your involvement with governments, have you worked with, obviously with accountants and others to craft a holistic pattern? Because obviously, if your regulation is great, but your taxation environment doesn't accommodate that, then it doesn't encourage industry at all.
Yes, indeed. And so on a lot of the ICOs, for example, that we were working on last year, there was a really close collaboration with the tax and accounting folk to make sure there was an alignment in terms of the interpretation. But likewise also in building clearer pathways through the legislation. And I think you're right that we are a little bit further behind the accountants and the auditors at this point in time in terms of understanding what the standards are.
Moving to a slightly different point, again we talked about all the aspects of different countries and different approaches. For anyone starting a project who wants to be compliant, who's active globally, this obviously presents a very difficult proposition with X number of jurisdictions to worry about. one of the things we were talking about was harmonization, standardization across countries. Do you think that's likely to be helpful or hurt? Because on the one hand, you can say consistency is helpful. On the other hand, does that mean we all come down to the lowest common denominator and you don't have progressive jurisdictions? Thoughts?
So to understand, doing this SPICE program is actually super challenging because the whole crypto ecosystem came from one that has no boundaries before. It's like totally trying to grow global from day one, sending payments here and there from day one, expanding from day one. But now we're trying to put a ring around it. It's actually not that easy. But especially now, we know that a lot of the companies that need to operate properly, for example, would need a bank account. For ICOs that want to do it properly without bad actors, without cheating the bad people, we also need a framework on that. So by having a no boundary to having some boundaries, it does take some negotiation on both sides to come together. So as it matures, I think both sides will start to understand why it's very difficult, but it's a matter of time before both sides really get to full harmony on how to move things even further.
I think looking between the different jurisdictions, I think the way fintech legislation will develop, I suspect will be similar to your general financial regulations. If you look at financial regulations across the world right now, you'll see that the leading financial centers tend to have higher standard regulations, and they tend to be, of course not identical, but fairly similar. Like what's expected in the US and the UK, for example, Singapore, Hong Kong. I think, broadly speaking, you're at a very high level. Whereas you have other centers that are not leading centers, where perhaps one of the attractions of going to those centers is because it's easier. I think with fintech, it's probably going to go a similar path. You would have places like Singapore that will want to make sure that their fintech laws are up to scratch with the leading financial centers. And you have other places where perhaps they want to attract a different type of business. So maybe it's a bit more lax. I think that's the way it will naturally progress. And actually, from the perspective of choosing your jurisdiction, it will come down, from the perspective of the fintech company, it will come down to what kind of fintech company you want to be and what's your target audience. I mean, if you want to just push out your product quickly, get some traction, then maybe you choose the jurisdiction with the lower standard. But if you want to operate in large financial centers and you're willing to wait a little longer, then maybe you choose the large financial centers and incrementally go about around these different jurisdictions.
I'm very practical because my view is that it's almost impossible to harmonize all these regulations across the different jurisdictions, mainly because every jurisdiction has their own challenges and their regulatory maturity are also different. So I don't think it makes sense to try to harmonize, but rather choose for any project, right, choose the jurisdiction that best fits their objective.
But I did voice to even some of the people in Parliament as well as regulators that fintech and banks are different. Right now, most of the very innovative fintech products are by very young people. Okay, so for example, once they go to accelerators in the US, they're not 45, 50-year-old bankers that go into the accelerator. Okay, most of these are very young people that have a mind to make the product, but don't understand compliance as one of the important things at the beginning. So it's important to balance both. If you really want to nurture innovation, you can actually see it from the intent of the rules. Because some of the countries are there to protect incumbents. Some of them are trying to nurture the fintech or the innovations that are around. So it depends on the country itself.
I'm just going to add two quick things. One is that we've had the line drawn in the sand by the Financial Action Task Force. So the International Standards Centre on Money Laundering has said that crypto-related businesses, services, exchanges will need to be regulated at least for money laundering. that is now in the formal recommendations, which means that each member country will be tested against that. So you can be sure that there will be a level of harmonisation happening. Secondly, in one of the earlier panels, we heard about the importance of the fiat on-ramps. And one of the most challenging things about that is bank accounts. And it is that pressure point of getting the fiat in from the real world into the crypto world, which changes behaviour as well. So harmonisation doesn't just come through regulation, it also comes through indirect means such as through banks.
Well, I think, sorry, we just kind of run out of time. I don't know if we have time for a quick question. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very, very exciting time. Thanks everyone.